Okay. All right, we're recording now. Okay. Hi, Zachary. How's your day been?
Hey, Julian. How are you?
Good. All right, so I'm going to give you a few questions about food insecurity. It's for an interview.
All right.
First question. Can you define food insecurity and its various dimensions?
Yeah, so food insecurity is basically not knowing where your next meal is going to come from. So if you're food insecure, you don't really know, hey, I'm going to have this for dinner. You know, many people go to bed hungry. They don't have dinner or they don't have breakfast. So people skip these meals because they can't afford the food to cook them, or they're working lots of jobs so they miss out on the meals.
Oh, I see. I see it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is.
All right, second question. What are the primary causes of food insecurity globally?
So globally, it's mostly poverty. So people that are under the poverty line don't have enough money to buy groceries and cook for themselves or their families. So usually we define it by if you're getting 3 meals a day, then you're usually not as food insecure. If you're going to a food bank to get food, usually we define that as being food insecure.
I see. Just a follow-up question.
Yeah.
It appears that food prices have been increasing.
Yeah,
Is that
due to
going to be
inflation.
true?
Yeah.
Yeah, this makes it more difficult. All right, number 3. How does food insecurity manifest differently in various regions or demographics?
So definitely around America, there's food insecure people around America, usually in poorer neighborhoods, especially in places like Chicago. Seattle has a 34% food insecure rate, so 34% of households are food insecure. But really just across the country, food insecurity impacts lots of people. So it's not just in one area or one state. It's mostly just around the country.
I see.
And then around the world, I would say in lots of poorer countries with a low GDP, countries in Africa, some countries in Asia have issues with food insecurity. Lots of even very rich countries with very functioning economy and very rich GDP line. Even people there sometimes can suffer from food insecurity because again it impacts lots of people and it just depends on where you are.
I see how you mentioned Seattle and Chicago. Does it happen mostly in urban areas?
Yes, it can happen in urban areas. I'm not sure what the statistics are in rural areas, but since most urban areas, sometimes people can't hold a steady job or they have a low-paying job, they can, the income can vary there.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What are the key indicators used to measure food insecurity?
So, yeah, usually getting 3 meals a day and
what role do government policies play in addressing food security,
So there's actually this program called the Food Benefits Program. So for families of 3 earning less than $4,000 a month, you'll be getting $740 a month for food. So basically the government and counties, actually, this is a county-based system, so the counties put in all of these minimal incomes that people are earning, and if you earn that or less each month, you can actually receive this payment from the state, and that'll help you with food insecurity. And then the government, states, and different organizations have established food banks around the country for people who are suffering from food insecurity so that they can get some free food, and places like Food Lifeline are producing and distributing food all across the country.
I see. Is it true that some people find those resources hard to access, though?
Yes, it's true. Some places have a lower access rate for food banks. I'm not sure of exactly where there would be, but it is true that some people aren't able to get food. There's food deserts where there isn't a nearby grocery store or a food bank, so people are pressured to drive miles and miles to go to a grocery store, and the food is especially expensive there, and then they're suffering from food insecurity anyway, so that's a really hard situation for lots of people.
I see. Okay, next question. How do environmental factors such as climate change impact food insecurity?
So climate change is a big one, especially the impact on crops. So since we have had droughts, natural disasters, it wipes out so many crops, which drives food prices up, and that causes inflation for everybody, not just people suffering from food insecurity, but those who are suffering from it are impacted the most. So when you have these crops that are being wiped out every season, and it takes a percentage, so farmers then are forced to raise their prices to cover up for that lost crop. And then when you go to the grocery store, the prices are raised. And let's say you're on this budget, you have to adjust your budget for the inflation like every year, which is really tough. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
I see. This is like a negative loop cycle. I
Yeah,
see here.
yeah,
So
vicious cycle. Yeah.
just following up, next question. So what are some effective strategies for like mitigating this?
So, so far we've had the strategy of food banks and food distribution centers, but some people aren't able to go to a food bank every day, and most of the time it's usually single parents with kids who are trying to support their families and don't have enough money to do it. So I think the most effective situation is something like the food benefits program, where we give people their own money to spend. That way they can help themselves support their families while they're still working, because usually they're working like one or two jobs.
I see. So donations would help definitely.
Yes, donations from the government and the state, and even from normal people.
Charity, right?
Yeah, charity.
Okay. How can communities build resilience against food insecurity?
Yeah, so I think support is the best way. So like we were just talking about charity, there's so many charities that normal people can support. Like if you want to donate just like $10, $15, it'll really help many people. Also volunteering at places. So if you were to go to a Food Lifeline and just volunteer 2 hours of your time, you can pack food for like 50, 100 people in that short amount of time.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really amazing what like normal people can do with just free time. They're like, hey, I want to go help my community. I want to go out and I want to support them. So yeah, just normal acts of giving can really make a
just to
difference.
put it out there, like a lot of people, like they just don't help.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they just like they let others do things. They think like others will like fix
Yeah.
it and stuff.
That's another problem with our world right now. Like we see the suffering, and sometimes we can't do anything about it. Like sometimes there's wars overseas, and you're stuck over here, and you're like, hey, I want to help the people that I care about, but how do I do it? But in this situation, there are so many ways to help. You could donate, you could volunteer. Like if you have the capability of donating and you don't have the time of volunteering, donating is the easiest option to take. So it's not like you can't do it. You can. So
Definitely.
people need to like shift their attitudes and help the people that are in need.
It's true. Okay, last question. What are the implications of food security on mental health and well-being in general?
Yeah, so this is another big issue. So of course, getting nourished is a huge problem for many children, especially. I believe over 10,000 kids go to sleep hungry in the U.S., and this can really impact a child's development. So there's a direct correlation with how much you eat and how much, as you're growing and you're developing, you need protein and you need all of the different nutritional sources that comes from good, healthy food. So when you don't have that or you miss out on a meal, first of all, that can impact school. Like when you're hungry at school, it's so much harder to focus. I can tell you from experience. And if you miss out on a meal, that can really hurt your developmental progress, not only as a student, but also just as a person.
Definitely. So would the stress of not being able to get food affect like yourself like mentally?
Yeah, definitely. So especially for parents, having the stress of maybe working multiple jobs, missing out on a meal, not having enough to support your family, that's a big stress point. And that can really affect your mental health just in many ways.
That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you, Zachary.
Awesome. Thank you, Julian.